I'm the CEO and co-founder of DLA Ignite. With me today, I've got Greg Garrison, and we're going to be talking about, well, he has actually got 2 books out. I think he's a bit greedy by doing that, but I've got the first book, which is Lead, Finding Your Leadership Identity, which I've read, have you got one as well, Greg?
I've got the second one too as well.
Oh, excellent. And there's a second book out with it as well. Greg, where can people find you?
Developing leadership style.
So, yeah, where can people find you?
So 2 things, of course, the most important, linkedin.com/company/Greg on Leadership. And also my website, gregonleadership.com.
So, Greg, let's dig into this. I joked the fact that you'd not written but 1 but 2 books. So what was the inspiration behind reading or writing the first and the second book and getting them out at the same time?
Great, thanks very much for having me. And the inspiration really was I've worked internationally for 40 years and had the great opportunity to work with just some tremendous professionals over the years in teams. And over that time, particularly working in a lot of different industries, a lot of different companies and countries and so on, had the chance to gain a lot of experience and was constantly reinventing myself, was constantly reading and researching and so on. And so over that period of time, of course, you amass a lot of information. So I semi-retired in December of 2019. And then, of course, COVID hit. And we locked down. And day 1 of the lockdown, I was 8,000 miles away from my kids and my granddaughters, and just feeling a little bit of distance from them. And I thought, okay, I want to write down what I've learned for my sons and eventually my granddaughters. So I started to write down this document, and it grew and grew, and with all of the things I'd learned over the years. And then it got to the point of that, well, maybe my ex-teams would enjoy to read this as well. And then it grew and grew, and eventually it was 650 pages. And I thought, okay, there's something here. And contacted a publisher. The publisher said, this has value, undoubtedly, but nobody's going to pick up a 650-page book, in Terminal 5 and jump on a plane and fly across the Atlantic. And so we split it into 2 books. And that worked out pretty well. But the inspiration was really to capture this information that I'd learned, create a bit of a legacy, but more importantly, really, as I did for 40 plus years, provide some knowledge, experience, information, thought leadership for young managers. And I think that's the key is that as I look at this and as I reread it, and I feel it has genuine value for youth, for people starting out in their career, for functional managers that want to become a general manager, for general managers that want to graduate to the C-suite, for consultants that want to become line managers.
Certainly, the feeling that I got when I read it was that this is, and certainly what my view of it is that this is a great book if you're early stage leadership or you're thinking about going into leadership, because it's a bit like it's like an MBA.
Yeah, it is.
In terms of this, this is all the knowledge that you need to know in leadership in 300 pages.
It is. Yeah. The book 1 really is the concepts, the thought leadership, the philosophy, the psychology of what is leadership. And in that, as I said, I was constantly reading and researching and reinventing myself. And so over the years, I just read a voluminous amount of business and leadership material. And so I decided to capture that and put that in the book. And so I have, it's the latest and the greatest and the best of the gurus of leadership over the last 50 years.
Yeah.
So additionally, one other thing, and then it also contains, I've had a passion for psychometric testing over the years.
Yes.
And so I've got a large chapter and an annex on that. And then I take both of those things and I combine that into what I call the 20 pillars of leadership. And these are the 20 key characteristics that I think are essential for an exceptional leader.
So do you think that leaders are born or made?
Uh, to be honest, both. And if you're, a good example, for example, is Bill Gates. Now, there's a guy whose father was a renowned lawyer in Seattle. His mother was a regent at the University of Washington. And so he had clearly, good genetics and an incredible environment. So he had a tremendous head start in life, and perhaps a little bit of finance behind him as well. And so there's a person who I can say is probably a natural born leader. Another really good example are the three Wojcicki sisters. I don't know if you or the readers or the viewers know the Wojcicki sisters.
Tell us, Greg.
But one was the CEO of YouTube. Second was a co-founder and CEO of 23andMe. And the third is a professor of epidemiology at the University of California. Three sisters, at the top of their game. Well, their father was a particle physics professor at Stanford, so good genes. Mother was a author and eminent writer and wrote a book on effective parenting, and so good nurture as well. So it's really about nature and nurture, and they're a great example. But if you look at others, you take, for example, Bill Clinton or Ronald Reagan or Barack Obama. None of these three you would have looked at them and said that they had the genes nor the environment that would have presaged their extraordinary success. And so I think that the thing is that it's not just what you're born with, it's what you do with it. And Warren Bennett talks about crucibles and talks about how a good leader takes the things that occur to them and transforms that into a positive thing, a constructive thing that actually then helps form their character as an effective leader.
So how do you create meaningful moments as a leader? How is it that you do that? Because you talk in the book a lot about purpose and how about servant leadership and things like that. And how is it that you actually turn that and create that into meaningful moments for the people?
Well, I think it's you mentioned purpose, and so I think it's really critical that a leader creates a compelling vision for the team. And what they've got to do with that vision is they've got to take that vision and they've got to build a bridge to the employees, build a bridge to their emotional framework, or build a bridge to their tasks and activities of the day. And that helps bond the team members and the staff's, I guess, their agenda and their activities and their desires and wishes and hopes and dreams to be part of something greater than themselves, to that original vision. So I think that's vision with a purpose. But at the end of the day, leadership is about little things. It's about what we do on a day-to-day basis. And Ken Blanchard wrote a great book a long time ago called The 1 Minute Manager. And this is all about just being in the moment and being responsive and nurturing and supporting and guiding and developing your teams. And so it's all about really, it's not just the annual review. It's how you pat somebody in the back, or how you give them a smile, or an approving nod in a meeting or something like that. And so these meaningful moments, I think, are important. And one example I cite in the book, and perhaps it's a trivial example, but I used to walk into the office, and large office, and number of different teams. But I'd take the long way around, and I'd walk by, and I would engage with, just a quick glance, at every person in the room, and they would look up, and this became just a little habit that everybody enjoyed. I would walk in and I would say hello to 100 people, just very, very quickly. It took 90 seconds or something like that, and I would do this on a regular basis, and they enjoyed it. And I think they felt that this created a bond with them to where they never worried about walking into my office and asking a question. And so I think it's the little things, it's the little encouragement that you do, constantly being in the moment and realizing that it's not just about setting goals and objectives, not just about the performance review. It's about continuous encouragement, guidance, nurturing, and support.
So one of the things that you talk about in the book, in terms of creating a vision with purpose, was that you were the CIO, CTO at TUI, which is a travel company, and you explained to the people that the vision was about giving, even though you're in an IT department, this is all about a family having the time of their lives and creating memories on the beach on holiday.
Yeah. One of the bywords of TUI, large European company, travel company, it's really about creating smiles. And again, this is how we link, all of your objectives to, some positive end result. And in this case, creating smiles in a travel company was everything that we do. And this is what I used to say in every interview and in every onboarding of any staff member. I would always say everything we do, whether you're writing a line of code, whether you're writing a test script, whether you're an Excel spreadsheet, a business case, a presentation, everything we do was a link in a chain of events that went all the way from the corporate strategy down through the operations. That eventually means that there's a little family on the beach with a young child playing in the sand, or a young couple on their honeymoon with the adventure of a lifetime. And so I would stress this, and it's really, I know it worked, and it not only inspired me, but inspired the people, that it wasn't just the mundane things we do as a technologist or the drudgery that we do as a financial person. It's what does it mean and what does it result in? And this for me was a very important thing. And you can do this in almost any business, is you find some purpose, raison d'etre for being and for working and for getting up in the morning and going in, or at least if you're remote working, logging on and finding some reason for making that activity important.
In the book, you cover a number of leadership gurus, from Frederick Taylor, Peter Drucker, and you give a very great précis of the people. If you were to pick one, who would it be? Who would be your favorite leadership guru?
Can I pick a couple?
Go on then.
Okay, well, for your viewers in the UK, one of my favorites is Charles Handy.
Right.
Charles Handy and Gods of Management, Age of Unreason, The Empty Raincoat. And I just really like him because he's a philosopher, he's a deep thinker, he's a good writer, and so on. So that's a guy that's just kind of a favorite for me. But if I look at this and I say, okay, leadership is both a science and an art. And on the science side, one of my favorite writers, and he's really a strategy writer, but strategy is a critical part of leadership, and that's Clayton Christensen. And Clayton Christensen wrote the groundbreaking book, The Innovator's Dilemma,
yeah, and
then subsequently The Innovator's Solution. And this is where he talks about disruptive technologies, emerging technologies. That's a great book, and it's timeless, really. And so I think anybody that's in leadership and in emerging technologies, The Innovator's Dilemma, Innovator's Solution is a great one. On the art side, then we have Daniel Goleman. Daniel Goleman wrote or at least popularized the whole idea of emotional intelligence. And that has really been a sea change in leadership in the last 20 years, 25 years. And that is not just about cognitive intelligence. It's not just about experience and technological prowess and so on. It's about being emotionally intelligent. It's about being a servant leader. It's about caring about your people, nurturing your people, guiding your people, developing your people. I mean, hey, yes, a leader is critically important, but what's a leader going to accomplish without a inspired, motivated, aligned team. And in this case, I've said on many occasions that I've felt that with, working with the people, guiding people, setting up an equitable value exchange with people, and that, if I was to grab a banner and charge up a hill, I knew I wouldn't have to look around. I would know that people were following me up that hill.
Yeah.
So that's emotional intelligence. But let me add one. If I had to say the one person, and I would have to say that that would be Rosabeth Moss Kanter.
Right.
Rosabeth Moss Kanter is a professor at Harvard, and she really is a deep systems thinker, and she talks about kaleidoscope thinking. And this is really, putting different lenses on issues and problems and strategies and decisions. And in addition to being a deep systems thinker, she's also an expert in change management and business transformation. So Rosabeth Moss Kanter is probably my choice.
One of the things you've written a lot about, is the constructs of character, foundations and pillars of success. So chapter 4. What would you say were the foundations of success?
I think the critical aspect of bonding with a team and really getting the team behind you and leading the team, and that very delicate chemistry between you and the team, and how do you develop that? And one of course, as I look at the 20 pillars of character, integrity is one. If you don't have integrity, if you don't have authenticity, people will immediately smell that. They will automatically detect that, and with that, then you establish trust, and that trust is two-way. So integrity, authenticity, trust, and then empathy. And you've got to have empathy. If you don't have empathy, you're not going to be emotionally intelligent with your staff. And so what I did was, in the research for the book, I went through all of the literature and the ideas and all of the gurus that I had read about, and I came up with 88 characteristics that were critical for character. And I thought, well, 88 is not a very good number to try and remember, and it's not a good model. And so I distilled that down. I deduplicated it down to these, what I call the 20 characteristics, pillars of leadership. But of those, the first intrinsic aspects are the ones I mentioned, of integrity, empathy, authenticity, and trust.
I mean, you work through them in the book, and all of them have relevance in terms of from enthusiasm to inspiration to diplomacy to judgment. They're all relevant. But I agree with you in terms of the top 5. In the last 2 minutes, tell us a little bit about where you've talked about in the book towards the end about interpreting others. I'm a Myers-Briggs person, which probably makes me old, but
I was going to mention Myers-Briggs. Really, not only in business but personally, Myers-Briggs is a great model to follow. But in business, there's a few things I'd like to mention very, very quickly. Of course, everybody should know about Maslow's hierarchy of needs.
Yep.
But along with I also linked to that Hertzberg's motivation theory. So those two work together very well. Additionally, I like very much, again, in Europe, particularly the Belbin model of team development, and Tuckman's model of team, building teams and growing teams and so on. So there's a series of psychometric tests there and psychometric assessments. And I think it's very important, in addition to the 20 pillars of management, take a look at some of the there's probably 20 or 30 different assessment tools there to really understand situational leadership with Broadmoor's capability assessment, and the two of those work very nicely together. So there's a lot of things there, and it's a quick study, but they're very insightful and very important, I think, for really understanding what's happening, what's motivating, what's driving, what's concerning your staff.
I've used Myers-Briggs in leadership situations, and it's been fantastic at you just are able to kind of lift the team that little bit more. Because you do get an insight. I know it's a summary, but you do get an insight into the way people are thinking.
Not only in business, but in your personal life as well. The Myers-Briggs is a very good tool to really get a good understanding of a framework for psychological development.
Greg, thank you so much for coming on and talking about your. Well, I've only got one of the books, which is Lead: Finding Your Leadership Identity. There's a second.
We'll get to the second one.
You've got the second one there as well. So if you could hold it up so people know what they're looking for. And where can we get copies of this?
So you can get these on Amazon. You can get these on Waterstones. You can get these in your local bookstores. But I think probably the best place anywhere in the world, they're on Amazon. And
Okay.
I really hope that they will be useful and helpful for developing a whole new generation of really effective as well as ethical leaders.
I think it's a fantastic book, as you said, for allowing the first-time leader or someone that's looking to go into leadership as a great foundation. And I think it's just an excellent, because you do summarize pretty much everything in terms of what leadership is about and the type of people, who has driven leadership in the past. It really is an excellent platform.
Thank you very much. I hope it's a single point go-to place that people can go and just get a head start.
So Greg, where can people find you?
Well, you can find me at linkedin.com/company/Greg on Leadership, as well as my website, gregonleadership.com.
Greg, thank you so much for coming on today and talking about it.